And welcome to New Jersey Politics with Laura Jones. I am Laura Jones, and we're so glad to have you here. Election day has come and gone, and New Jersey has seen a Democratic sweep that keeps the Garden State firmly blue. Democrat Mikey Sherrill, the four-term Congresswoman, Navy helicopter pilot, and former federal prosecutor, is now governor-elect. Sherrill captured 54% of the vote to Republican Jack Ciattarelli's 44%. Sherrill spoke to an energized crowd at her election night campaign headquarters in East Brunswick.
This was a tough fight, and this is a tough state. But I know you, New Jersey, and I love you. I've fought for you. I've spoken with thousands of you over this last year. I know your struggles. I know your hopes. I know your dreams. So serving you is worth any tough fight I have to take on, and I am incredibly honored to be your next governor.
Democrats did not stop at the executive branch. They padded their legislative majority too. All 80 seats in the General Assembly were on the ballots, and Democrats have expanded their reach. Big flips for Democrats. Legislative District 8 in Burlington County, both seats turning blue for the first time in a decade. Legislative District 21, which is Morris and Union counties, Democrats had a sweep there, ousting the GOP incumbents. Joining me now is a former gubernatorial candidate on the Republican side, morning radio show powerhouse and host at New Jersey 101.5, Bill Spadea. Bill, good to see you.
Good to see you, Laura. Not a lot of sleep last night, but here we are.
Right. What a night election night was. And you warned during the primary that the Republicans needed a fighter, not a retread. And Jack Ciattarelli got the nomination. He got President Trump's endorsement, but Mikey Sherrill just handed him his third loss in 3 tries. Was the party wrong?
Well, clearly it was a mistake. I mean, Jack was not only a weak candidate, but he somehow managed to undo the gains that Donald Trump made in 2024. I mean, you look at the map. He lost now only by a percentage point, but he lost Cumberland County, and this is the home of Senator Mike Testa, who headed up Donald Trump's campaign back in 2020 for the state. So to lose that, then to lose Passaic County that Trump was able to win 60-40, he lost it. And then I think in one of the most telling ways that we knew the race was over early was his returns in Morris County, where he lost Morris County. I mean, for a Republican to lose Morris County after Chris Christie carried it by 60% in 2009, carried it by 70% in 2013, he just way underperformed. And what he did was he managed to squander a Trump endorsement. And I think one of the main reasons that he suppressed a lot of the Trump base is people didn't take Jack seriously as a Trump guy because he went full never Trump back in the 2021 race and then embraced Trump to win the primary, but just couldn't carry the message. And then he took all the baggage from Donald Trump. He refused to fight him on the Gateway Tunnel project, which was a total miss. He misstepped on a few of those issues, so he took all the baggage, but then failed to bring the president into New Jersey like the Democrats brought in Barack Obama. You know, if you're going to take all the negatives that come with Donald Trump, at least get the benefit of the energy, the turnout. I mean, it could have been electric if he had brought Donald Trump in the way they brought Barack Obama in, but they failed to do it. It was a mess.
Right, and Mikey Sherrill seized those opportunities and took things that should have been Jack Ciattarelli's strength and turned them into her strengths. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I actually, Laura, we are still digesting how the Democrat nominee who is serving in Congress last 7 years, an absolute part of the problem when it comes to rising energy costs, the affordability crisis in New Jersey. Democrats have been solidly in control in Trenton back since 2001. Yet she managed to steal that away from Jack Ciattarelli and become the candidate that was the champion of lower energy costs and affordability. How Jack allowed that to happen, honestly, this was absolute campaign malpractice on the part of the candidate and the consultants around him, because the Democrat then became the champion of affordability. And it's almost like, pay no attention to the fact that my party's been in charge in Trenton in the legislature for the past 24 years. I'm the one that will lower your costs. And Jack so misplayed it that he relied on the negative campaigning. And quite honestly, people are sick of it. His response when he was attacked during the debates on the opioid issue, the company that he profited, made millions and millions of dollars on by pushing that opioids were just not that dangerous. When it confronted with that, his answer was, well, at least I walked at my college graduation.
Right.
I mean, it was just a total disconnect with the voters. And I think, the results are clear. I mean, Jack Ciattarelli, not only his third loss now trying to run for governor in the past 10 years, but he lost by 13 points. It was a blowout. And he lost Republican areas. And by the way, Laura, cost the Republicans now potentially 5 seats in the assembly. He had negative bills.
Exactly.
Disaster.
Let's talk about down ballot. You know, there were 3 legislative districts, the 3rd, the 8th, the 21st, where Republicans have now lost seats.
Yeah. How do you lose in the 21st district where John Bramnick ran for governor and wins his Senate seat by 6 points, 8 points? The assembly members, same thing. They win by good margins. What happened this time? Well, what happened this time is Jack Ciattarelli let his ego get in the way and refused to call John Bramnick after the primary, refused to campaign with these 2 women who have been strong voices in the assembly, and now the Republicans are without them. But it gets worse. Morris County was a real problem. By losing Morris County, he didn't take my advice. I had made this suggestion about a month ago, said you got to get Jim Gannon, Sheriff Jim Gannon, Morris County, his LG pick, very popular, arguably the most popular politician in Morris County, said keep him in Morris County, win Morris County. What'd they do? They sent him out to Jersey City to feed the homeless. I mean, it made no sense. The optics were bad. The strategy was bad. And as a result, now it looks like Christian Barranco will be the 3rd assembly member to fall because of Jack's misplayed strategy in Union and Morris. And then you go south, you look at Atlantic County, looks like Claire Swift is going to lose her seat in the 2nd. That's unbelievable. We went from looking at pickups potentially in Burlington and Gloucester. Another one, Mike Teresi, going to lose his seat in the 8th. 5 losses, all on Jack.
The 2nd, we didn't even think was really going to be in play.
Didn't even think about it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And when you look at trends, you know, at the national level and the local, at the state level, after 8 years, typically the pendulum swings the other way. All right, so you've had 8 years of Democratic control in the governor's office, longer than that in the legislature. And, you know, the overwhelming issue that drives every election, it's affordability. So Jack Ciattarelli had a lot going for him trend-wise, you know, that were on his side because, you know, the party in power, they're responsible. They haven't done anything. How the government shut down, how, you know, a lot of things happening at the national level played into it. You know, it kind of makes it a little bit gray. But he had so many things going for him. We haven't had somebody from the same party win 3 terms in a row since 1961.
That's right.
That's now over. You know, so what happened? Like, how could so many things go so wrong?
Well, he literally snatched defeat out of the jaws of victory. I mean, the guy had it all going for him. He should have won by several points, as a matter of fact, and he blew it. And why? Because he did not appeal to working class and middle class New Jerseyans. He did not appeal to Trump voters, as you can see. I mean, losing Cumberland County was a disaster. Morris County in Hunterdon was way closer than it should have been. So Trump voters were simply not energized to turn out for Jack. And that's a real problem for Republicans. But beyond that, he didn't have a consistent message. If you ask the average voter, who is Mikey Sherrill, they would have told you even 2 months ago, oh, she flew a helicopter in the Navy and she's going to freeze our energy prices on day 1 with an executive order. They would have told you that. She was a very disciplined candidate on message. Jack, all over the map. They tried the attack on the graduation walk. They tried the attack on the $7 million, which I thought could have stuck, but he didn't have the discipline. Jack was a very weak, undisciplined candidate. And the problem for Ciattarelli, and this is why it was a huge mistake to nominate him, is that he has no consistent philosophy or principles. He is the person that candidate changes depending on the group he is in front of. So his message would change group to group, and you can see it. He went from never Trumper in 2021 to all in, afraid to challenge the president on something so basic as the Gateway Tunnel project in 2025. Voters simply did not trust him. And we saw this with the numbers among independent, unaffiliated voters, that they simply trusted Mikey Sherrill on the issue of affordability more than they trusted Jack.
Well, you're on the radio every morning talking to voters, people living in New Jersey. What were they saying? What were they saying the day after the election as you took to the airwaves? Because they have these frustrations, but but they seem to think Mikey Sherrill was more believable or more trustworthy. What else are they saying?
There was a likability factor with Mikey Sherrill that Jack didn't have. I mean, Jack is, if you know him personally, he's a bit rough. You know, he'll look through you. He's got a very classic politician demeanor, and that doesn't fly today. You know, Mikey Sherrill tells stories about her family and her kids, and you could even see it on stage with the victory speech that she gave, very personable, smiling, whereas Jack is brooding and negative, and that doesn't translate well. I also think that Mikey Sherrill somehow managed to go beyond the partisan rhetoric and appeal to independents. And what I directly heard from listeners today is Mikey Sherrill had a detailed, specific plan for affordability and energy prices, and Jack did not. The number one takeaway was people heard over and over again Jack saying, I am the only one with a specific plan. Well, I guess he believed if you say that enough, people will not actually ask you about the plan. They'll just assume you have one. But when he got pressed on what the plan was, he had no answers. Yeah, and that was a turnoff. Voters were thinking this time around.
Yeah. Where does the Republican Party go from here?
Well, we need a complete reset. If you look at in the Assembly, disaster this time. The Senate is set up for a disaster if we don't make a major change. If you want to break down where we had success in New Jersey on election night, look no further than Ocean County. Pickups in brick, solid wins for the Assembly candidates in Ocean County, never in doubt that they were going to deliver. And George Gilmore, the Ocean County Republican chair, delivered a 90,000+ win for Jack in Ocean County. It was the only bright spot in the state. So where do we go from here? We need to end all of the weak, lackluster leaders that have been settling for 20 years, taking the scraps off the Democrats' table. It is time to have fighters who will speak for New Jersey and address the issues of affordability, energy, public safety, restoring a cost of living adjustment for our cops. All of these issues, the Republican leaders have been so scared to tackle that they look at a poll and the poll tells them which way to go. By contrast, Governor Ron DeSantis in Florida took a blue state and turned it red by being a fighter and consistent on the issues. So we've got to get rid of John DeMaio, who won his reelection but does not belong as a leader of the Assembly caucus. We've got to get rid of Tony Bucco, who will likely win his election. Maybe Morris County's in trouble right now, but he's too weak as a Senate leader. We need fighters. We need strength. I think we need to think long and hard about a party chair who has a consistent, principled core set of beliefs and the toughness to build a ground game. We need guys like Brian Stack on the Republican side, to do the turnout. I mean, I'll tell you, Laura, I spent time door to door, knocking on doors. After I lost the primary, I went back to the radio, and then I started knocking on doors with candidates for mayor, Board of Education, council. Where was the Chitterelli campaign? Nowhere to be found. Where was the NJGOP? Nowhere to be found. I don't even know this guy Paulson, who's the handpicked guy to replace Bob Hugan, who was a disaster as chair. But we need aggressive, strong, principled fighters with integrity to speak for New Jersey and rebuild this party. I'll leave you with this thought on this issue. The Democrats lost the governor's race in 1993, and we arguably then elected one of the worst governors we've ever had in Christine Todd Whitman. That's for another show. But what the Democrats did was they said, we're not going to focus on the governor's office. We're going to focus locally. We're going to flip towns. We're going to flip counties. And they then, 8 years later, built a sustainable majority, electing Jim McGreevey governor and getting a majority in both houses that stands to this day. The Republicans have to think long term, and we're going to start doing that. I'll have some announcements coming up about what we're doing on the ground over the course of the next few weeks.
Well, that was my final thoughts. You yourself came in second in the primary. We could take a whole show just talking about, coulda, woulda, shoulda, done differently. But is there anything you can tell us about what we might expect to see from you? You're fired up, and you are not going gentle into that good night.
No, because honestly, Laura, I'm angry. Because of Jack's weakness and the weakness of the New Jersey Republican Party, we now have to suffer 4 years of Mikey Sherrill. We're essentially getting 4 years of Phil Murphy 2.0, and it is directly the fault of the insiders that have wrecked this party by selling out our ideas and taking scraps off the Democrats' table, and quite honestly, backroom lobbyists bullying good people. I can't imagine how many people were bullied by Jack and the cabal in the back room, either out of running or taking on their issues. And now what happened? What do they get for that? Jack loses by 13 points. We lose 5 assembly seats. So the reset is coming. It's here. And November 5th is day one.
Yeah, it wasn't even close. Bill Spadea, New Jersey 101.5. So good to see you. Always good to talk with you.
We'll talk soon. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, New Jersey, want to choose how you live as you age? Tune into AARP New Jersey's new show, The Power of Us, the show that celebrates aging with dignity, purpose, and joy. From protecting yourself against fraud, to staying healthy and aging in place, to finding purpose through volunteering, we've got the tools, tips, and stories to help you thrive. Join us on ONNJ and discover the power of us.
At AmeriHealth, we understand what's important to you. It's why we offer some of the lowest cost health plans in New Jersey, with access to one of the state's largest networks of doctors and hospitals. Plus, with free 24/7 virtual care, you can see a doctor anytime and anywhere. And we're committed to giving back to help make a difference in our communities. Learn more at AmeriHealth.com. A health plan for everyone.
Democratic Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill storms to victory, defeating Republican Jack Ciattarelli to become New Jersey's next governor in a race many said would be so close, but in the end was not. Joining us from Stockton University is Alyssa Maurice, Assistant Director and Head of Research and Polling at the Hughes Center for Public Policy. Alyssa, welcome. So good to see you here.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, this race, people thought, is going to be so close. It is head-to-head, really battling it out. But in the end, it wasn't even close. The polls seemed to have it wrong. What happened?
So with the polls, there was such a wide range of leads for Sherrill, from a healthy double-digit lead in some polls to what was essentially statistically a dead heat in others, since the lead was within the margin of error. What I'll say about the polls is that pollsters are trying to model the electorate and nail down likely voters, who's actually going to show up on election day. And they all have different approaches of doing that. One of the wild cards is really turnout. In previous years, specifically, Ciattarelli's race against Murphy in 2021, one of the reasons he came so close is because Democratic turnout was depressed in those urban centers throughout the state, which are Democratic strongholds, and it really reduced the impact of Murphy's wins there. And we saw that that was not the case last night. They were energized. Democrats certainly came out this time around. And so that's what really made the difference for Sherrill and boosted that margin.
Yeah, and can you just talk just a little bit about, when it comes to polls during a campaign cycle, they were almost weaponized. Chitterelli was talking a lot about his momentum from some of the tighter surveys. Mikey Sherrill's campaign dismissed them as outdated. So you have this barrage of numbers coming in, media loves to report on that horse race. Do these polls, I think there were nearly 30 in the final month, do they move voters? Or is it just more fuel for, TV people and print media and such?
Well, you make a good point. They are covered so extensively by the media. So it's important for, voters to be mindful consumers of polls and to understand what they're getting with them. And I would caution, people should not focus too much on those precise estimates on those head-to-head polls. Who are you going to vote for? Because again, each pollster is trying to model the electorate, but there are a lot of unknowns there. What I would suggest is looking deeper into these polls, see if you can see some other trends that might point to, where the electorate is. And something we saw in a lot of the polling was that Trump's approval rating was worse than Murphy's. So this battle between the candidates of both of them trying to tie each other to unpopular party leadership, that's more effective on Sherrill's side because Trump was far more divisive in the state. And Murphy just did not, he was not, he had better support here in New Jersey than Trump did. So that's something that the polls really did show that was sort of a signal we could have been taking for this election.
Right. So many people just look at those final numbers. This candidate's here. It's neck and neck. But the Hughes Center, it has tracked New Jersey opinion sentiment for years. Pre-election, 2/3 of the voter told Stockton that the country was heading in the wrong track. 39% said their finances are worse. Mikey Sherrill really rode that anti-Trump energy to victory. So can you talk a little bit about how the national vibe, so to speak, really were overriding these kitchen table issues like property taxes, affordability, which is always an issue here in New Jersey?
Yeah, those national dynamics were really working in Sherrill's favor. Our polling showed we don't do those candidate preference head-to-head polls. We just focus on the issues and we poll all registered voters just to get a temperature check and see where the electorate stands. And we saw that they are extremely dissatisfied with the current economy. They're dissatisfied with Trump's leadership right now. And then earlier this year, also, we did some polling around the state budget. And we also saw that some of the things that Chitterelli was proposing was really only landing with Republicans. For example, he talked in the debate about, having a state level DOGE and really looking at state government employees. And we saw earlier this year in our polling that is something that just doesn't land with people in the middle and with Democrats. That's solely for Republicans. So, some of those positions were a little bit divisive in a state like New Jersey.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit about the gender split? It was seismic. Sherrill really crushed it with women by 18 to 20 points in exit polls, while men leaned Chitterelli. Do your tracking polls spot that divide? And could campaigns have recalibrated messaging sooner?
Yeah, I think that goes to show how, Sherrill's bio and resume was really resonating with voters. We talk a lot about how they've framed economic issues. We talk a lot about how they talk about Trump and Murphy. But something else that is playing into voters' choice is their bios. And Sherrill really played up her role as a mother. She talked in the first debate, she tied a lot of the issues to children. And that's something that was really resonating with women throughout the state. She also emphasized her background as a Navy pilot, and of course he criticized her for bringing that up so much, but we see in these results that those characteristics really did resonate, and specifically with women.
And it's very interesting, as the election results were coming in, I was asking some people, I wasn't surprised by it. Yet, a couple hours before the polls closed, people were saying, hey, you know what, it's either going to be, decisive or we're going to be here all night long. And it turned out it was decisive, a 13-point victory for Mikey Sherrill. Very big.
Yeah, absolutely. The big question was really that turnout. We saw in a couple previous cycles. I mentioned Chitterelli's race against Murphy in 2021, but we also saw in 2024 that Trump came closer to Harris than people expected because of some depressed turnout among the Democrats. So I think Democrats were very nervous about whether the base could really be energized for this election. And I think that played into this question of, I don't know, it could be close, even with knowing Democrats have such a huge registration advantage in the state. They have more than 850,000 voters, but that energy question was really worrisome after the past couple of cycles, and Cheryl was able to turn that around.
Okay, Alyssa Maurice, the Hughes Center for Public Policy at Stockton. So good to have you here. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks so much for having me.
And that'll do it for today. I'm Laura Jones. Thanks so much for watching New Jersey Politics. We look forward to seeing you back here next time.
Hey, New Jersey, want to choose how you live as you age? Tune into AARP New Jersey's new show, The Power of Us, the show that celebrates aging with dignity, purpose, and joy. From protecting yourself against fraud, to staying healthy and aging in place, to finding purpose through volunteering, we've got the tools, tips, and stories to help you thrive. Join us on ONNJ and discover the power of us.
At AmeriHealth, we understand what's important to you. It's why we offer some of the lowest cost health plans in New Jersey, with access to one of the state's largest networks of doctors and hospitals. Plus, with free 24/7 virtual care, you can see a doctor anytime and anywhere. And we're committed to giving back to help make a difference in our communities. Learn more at AmeriHealth.com. A health plan for everyone.